All right, welcome everybody. This is Tyler Garns, and really excited this evening to have a guest speaker, one of our faculty members, Desiree Scales. Great thing about Desiree is that she's been doing this for a long time and is very, very experienced. She's been doing web design since 1998. So if you're familiar with internet history, you know that that's kind of ancient history. Not that that Desiree's an old lady, because she's not, but she knows she is on top of her stuff. But she's been doing this for a long time and is very experienced. I got started on the internet. Let's see, really probably around the same time. I got back from Argentina in 1998. Built my first website probably in 1999. So Desiree, you're probably a year or two ahead of me. And then I was working at an internet startup 99 to 2001 until the internet blew up and we all went our different ways. And that was a fun time. But so great to have you on here, a true expert at web design and building effective websites. So Desiree, what I'm going to do is just turn the time over to you, and we'll turn the screen share over to you, so that you can just walk us through your great teachings and experience. And I've got the chat open here for anybody to join in on chat. So if they have questions, I may interrupt you to ask you the questions that are coming through on the chat. Okay, is that all right?
That sounds great. That sounds great. So, hi everybody. Thank you for your time today, and just want to talk about websites and landing pages. And I don't know. Let's see. I think, Tyler, are we going to be able to have questions during this session?
Yeah, they'll come through on the chat here. I don't know if you're going to see them because I think you just joined directly through Google, but I'm seeing them on the webinar jam here over here. So I'll just let you know when questions come through.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so welcome everybody, and just want to talk to you a little bit about websites and what you should be looking at, what kind of technology works in today's environment. I think that we all agree that most websites are viewed on our cell phones, our smartphones now. So we're going to talk about being mobile with our websites. We're going to talk about what it means to enable a mobile responsive website and exactly how that works, and why that's really, really important. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. We're also going to talk about some content and what you can do to make your site really stand out, and as far as images and text and fonts and all of that kind of thing. So the first thing I think we're going to talk about, what is a website? Why do we have websites? What are they supposed to do for us? And really, a website can be an informational brochure site that tells about your company. It should be very easy to read, bullet points, not too much text. You really want people on the front page to understand exactly what your company does, and make it easy for people to find that information from anywhere that they're at. So we're going to do a little screen sharing here. I'm going to try to see if this will work for me. And we're going to start the screen share. I think everybody, how's that look, Tyler? Looking good?
Yep, we're seeing just the slides right now, but as soon as you flip over to a website, then we'll be able to see that.
All right, can you see that right now?
Yep, we can see Capstone Financial. Looking
Great.
good.
All right, so this is one of our sites. This is a company in Georgia. Obviously, they do financial. And what we used on this website is a slideshow so that people could actually see in one fell swoop, I like to say, everything that they specialize in. Collaboration, they talk about their capstone plan in this slide. So these slides change, and there's about 4 to 6 slides here. That's a great way at first glance, when this website loads, you see immediately what they're doing. You can see their locations. Eye level is where you want that information to be, and that is above the fold. What I mean by above the fold is this line right here at the bottom. It's like if you have a newspaper and it's folded. In the old days, let's say you're 1930s, remember the newsboys that used to throw the papers and extra, extra, read all about it. this is what above the fold means. We want the most important information to be above the fold on the computer. So you can use a slideshow, you can use video. Video is extremely important on websites sites these days. They play right in the website. And then we've got their social media icons right here, top right-hand corner, and we've got a way to contact these folks, their phone number. When you put a phone number on your website, you want to make sure your webmaster creates it in text and not in a picture. The reason is if you open this website on a phone, see how I can select this text right here? It became blue. I was able to select it. That's text, and when you open it on a phone, you can actually click on that particular phone number and dial it immediately. That's really, really important. And then they have their little request a meeting button. That's a call to action that goes to a form, and then that form is filled out, and you can have some really cool marketing automation behind that form. So you want to, on the home page, make it easy for people to contact you. Put your phone number there. Put a request a meeting or get a quote. If you have an e-commerce site, you want to put your best-selling items right there above the fold again. And then you want people to follow you on social media and have all of your social media channels at the ready so people can click on those and see, more about you on your social media channels. Then you've got your navigation, and I want you to see how simple this navigation is. It's very simple, 3 words or less in each one of these buttons. One word is the best, if you can do that. They talk about who they advise, and then for each category, you can click and learn more. Their careers, they've got all kinds of locations around the state of Georgia. And of course, their Contact Us button is the right-hand side, right under Request a Meeting. That's where people usually expect to find that Contact Us. And then you can go down here, and we created a really cool navigation for them. I really like this. They're kind of like snapshots. We looked at their audience. This is another big tip that I'm going to give you. Know who your audience is for your website, and you want to talk to them immediately on the home page. So their audience obviously are people that are worried about their family or their special needs children, their parents, their employees, or their business partners. So you can click on any of these little snapshots and you get a video that corresponds with that particular topic. So I wanted to show you that. And then also you've got more navigation here, so if you go to the Your Family page, you can also go back to the special needs child or your parents. So you can always get to many different parts of the site at the same time on every single page. And what they put here are some of their calculators. Very popular pages are over what we call this is the right-hand column, or it's just a column of information that people can navigate, a navigational column. Also, if you notice at the bottom of their site, they have all of their pages, their links are listed. Again, you want to give people, when people read through the page and they get to the bottom of the page, you want to give them a way to go elsewhere within the website. And they also have their logo at the bottom of the page for more branding. Your logo is the most important thing on that page. That is your brand. So you want to make sure that you play off that logo. You play off the colors. You see, we took the logo and actually put it in the navigation. That triangle is their brand. So we want that on that page as much as possible, but not too much. And then we've got their information, and at the very bottom, their address and their phone number once again. So you could see for Capstone Financial, just kind of an idea of what we've put together for them. So I'm going to click on now Quantum Radiology. This is a different type of site. This is more of a medical site. What they do is in Georgia, they work with the WellStar program, and you can get your your x-rays through this company, your imaging services. So again, we've got the slideshow changing, and then we've got the buttons in many different colors, so they're easy to read, and you can find what you want very quickly, again, above the fold. So we've got all that information above the fold. We've got friendly pictures, people who are like you and me, not necessarily stock photography, but they used real people in these images to make patients feel like, we're one of one of you. It's real patients that are featured here on this site, which I think adds a personal touch. We've got a search area here that people can search. I wouldn't add a search area unless you had 15 or more pages. That's typically the rule. 15 or more pages, and you want to have a search. Obviously, there's a lot of information on this website. And then we've got information about their screenings, the different their news page here, and then we've got some logos that show who they work with and who they represent, and again, more site navigation here, and we've got their privacy policy at the bottom. Their most important button here is make a payment. This actually goes off to an area where people can make a payment with a credit card, their patient portal. People do that a lot on this website to pay for the resources that Quantum has. Another thing on their website is that they feature their team. We had a real challenge with this because there are over like 55 doctors that are part of this quantum radiology group, and we wanted to show their pictures. They actually had pictures taken, professional pictures, as you can see. All the pictures are behind them. They're very cohesive. Everybody looks pretty much the same. They've got their coats on. The guys have ties on. We wanted it to be cohesive. It looks a lot more professional, and then you can read more about each physician. Usually people know who their physician is going to be. They want to learn a little bit more about them when they go in. So we've got that information here, and then we've got their partners and some of their divisions, and obviously their locations. That's another big page for them. They show this is actually their boardroom, and they have their offices listed so that you can find them pretty easily. And then when you click on the name of the headquarters, you go to Google Maps, and it will actually show you exactly where the location is. So that's real helpful for people who have to go in and get their x-rays done or their MRIs. So, really, again, very simple, very easy to read. You see, this website is extremely clean. There's not a lot going on here. It's to the point on that home page. So I wanted to show that. This is a different type of website. This is a conservation website. These folks specialize in people who want to invest in land. They have, let's say they've come into a lot of money, somebody passed away, and you can actually invest in land. And then what we did is we took their three most important topics here, conservation and their consulting and their contact, and put that right there at eye level. Again, we put their news page and resources page. And again, at the bottom, you've got all of their buttons, all of their links to all the pages within the site. So you can always go where you want to from whatever page that you're on. And then we've got the recent posts. If you're going to have a blog on your site, you might want to make sure that you use that, update it. You can put that blog post on your first page. Some people do, some people don't. It just depends on if you keep it updated. Same thing with your news page. They obviously keep this updated. Well, let's say 2014. Obviously, that's last year. I was thinking it was this year. I'm still in 2014 in my head. So we've got some work here to do with this company. They really should update this and make sure that they've got more information here for 2015. So if you do have a blog, this is a lesson for you. Make sure that you update it. Make sure that you update your news. And obviously they have their Contact Us page. That leads to their address, and it leads to their email, and then a form, again, that kicks off some marketing automation, gives you more information about the company. And let's see, another thing I wanted to point out with this website, we created some illustrations for their site, not necessarily using actual images. They've got images here, but they also included some illustrations because they really this is their logo. We created a brand new logo for them, and see how the logo comes in with their name, Conservation Pays, and they use that logo on their business cards. They use it on their letterhead, their envelopes. Again, their brand carries through not only their website, but it carries through all of their printed material. And then you can meet their team. And these guys chose not to put pictures of their team on, just put basic information about the company. So, there's just different ways of doing websites. You can use images, you can use illustrations, that's up to you, but you really want to make it interesting for people to, to keep going forward, and just make sure that you have your top 3 goals on the first page. What do you want people to do when they come to your site? What do you want them to read? Think about that when you put your website up. Now I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to go to my website, and I just want to show you something really quick. I want to show you what mobile responsive looks like and how that works. If you see my website here, it's got a lot of information on the front page, but I want you to watch this. I'm going to shrink this page up and see how things start to change. That phone number just got a lot bigger. Customer support, my buttons changed and they went to the top, and all of the information kind of shrunk down so that when somebody's on a phone, they can see now that everything is in one column. This is how it would look like on a smartphone, basically, or a tablet versus a big computer screen. And you see how the navigation then went to the top, and the phone number got really big, so that when people click on this phone number on their phone, they can call our offices directly. And then the logo became a focal point for the website. So I just wanted to show you, and see again, now everything kind of got stretched out. The little 7-day adventure disappeared when I made it smaller. It actually went to the bottom of the page. But this is called mobile responsive. This is what happens when your site is mobile responsive. Things move around, and it's easier to read on a mobile phone. You really want to make sure that your site is mobile responsive in this day and age, because this is primarily what people are using to look at your website. See how those all those icons got bigger? Everything kind of moved around and shifted when I made that screen smaller. You should be able to do this with your website if it's mobile responsive. If you can't, you might want to talk to your developer about making the site mobile responsive. And if you build your site in what's called WordPress, that's what we use for our clients. A lot of those templates are mobile responsive, and you can take your information, put them in the template, and it will become mobile responsive automatically. So I just wanted to show you that. Are there any questions, Tyler, at this point?
No, I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. I think you're doing great. So yeah, just carry on. I would add though, this point that you're making right now about being mobile responsive is super important. I guess I'll just call myself old school. I sit at my computer most of the day working, and so I don't use my phone a whole lot. But then there's my wife on the other hand, and she pays bills on her phone. She does everything on her phone, and she'll come to me with problems like, hey, I need to do such and such. Can you do it for me? I'm like, you can just do that on your computer just fine. She's like, well, I don't use my computer. And so if she can't do it on her phone, she's not going to do it. And I think more and more people are like that. Just operate on your phone all day long. And if your website is not mobile responsive, you lose a lot of people.
You definitely do, and mobile is not just the phones, it's the tablets that we use, iPads. There's all kinds of tablets out there. I want to show you another site. Now this is a very interesting site because again, there's hardly any photos. There's a lot of icons, a lot of illustrations on this site. This is called a very flat design. It's flat. There's no three-dimensional here. You don't see much shadowing. You see some shadows here. These look like buttons that you can actually press, but the shadowing has gone away in a lot of the designs that we're seeing these days, and design has become more flat. It just, it's flat design, more illustration. I'll show you this again. This is responsive. See how everything, oh, where did that navigation go? See, it was there, and then all of a sudden the navigation changed and became this little menu right here. That mobile responsive knew that the screen changed and became this menu. When you look at this on a phone, this is what it's going to look like. And if you click on, meet the team, then you've got my friend Sander, who owns this company. He shows up here, and his story also shows up. And then he also just hired Matt. His company is growing, so we're real excited for him this year. But see how everything just gets really, really small and tight and shows up on the mobile phone really, really nicely. You've got his categories, you've got his archives of his blog posts. He does keep up with his blog posts, I know that. And you can see his pictures get very small, and then here's how it looks when it's a bigger screen. So you can see that menu, and it went away and became, just a regular website with big buttons. So, again, you can see how that works with mobile responsive. And again, a flat design. This is becoming more the norm, where there's a link, just a basic, more color, and then a lot of white space here, and then you've got another line of color. I'm going to show you another site which we just did, application. I think I'm really excited about this website. It's kind of an interesting concept. We actually just launched this website this week. Again, a very flat design, but look at how the pictures in the background don't, very slowly change, but the content, the font starts moving. So things are moving at different speeds. See how that child in the background isn't necessarily moving, but the font and the text above the child is. This is actually a place for people to go to remember their loved ones. You can create a profile, somebody who's passed on, and commemorate them, sort of. And we connected this with Facebook. It's really a wonderful website. But see how the background's just kind of standing still almost, and then everything is kind of superimposed on top. This is another, I don't want to call it a trick, but it's just another way of building a website. And so you can see, and then the pictures change. I mean, it's really cool. I really like, this is called Parallax. You might hear about this in the future. It's Parallax Design. It is responsive. I'll show you that. See how everything changed? Again, the menu kind of went away, but then it shows up here. These three lines indicate that there is a menu there, and that's becoming more of a universal type of structure. And now it's changed a little bit. Everything is moving together more on the mobile site, where when this was a bigger picture, things were moving slower. The background kind of stayed still while everything on top moved. It's called Parallax, and it's just a different way of building a website. Kind of cool, kind of different. So something else that would make your site look a little more modern, and it's got that flat design. You don't see any shadows on this website. This is very flat. So this is the Always Me site. Again, they've got the contact form. It's very big. That's another thing with fonts. You want to make your fonts big, so that people can read. This is easy to read. We've got a lot of baby boomers out there that need glasses, and believe it or not, more and more people are wanting bigger fonts so that these sites are easier to read. Something to think about, is to use a bigger font on your website. So, this is the Always Me site, and you can see how that works. Just kind of a neat, different looking website. Again, I think images are important, and you can choose whether it's a real image or whether it's an illustration. That's up to you. But you know, just make it real easy for people to navigate. Let them know where they are always on the site. And if you want to lead people to where you want them to go, make sure that home page, see how the box changes colors. You know that that's a link that you can click on. That's real important. See that? So people know that that's an active link and it's going to actually go somewhere. If you have an email address, you don't necessarily have to make that link with a line, but you can make it a different color and people will know they can click on that and it will bring up an email that you can communicate with the company that way. So that's just another way of designing a website that I wanted to show you. Yeah, we talked about templates too. You can actually start with something that exists, a template. It might save you some money, and then from that template, you can actually build a site. So this was Sanders' template. If you can see this, it was a WordPress theme right here, and this is what we ended up with. Looks totally different, but it already had the mobile functionality built in, and it was real easy for us to create some of these illustrations for him, put those into the template, change the colors, add his text, and make the template his own. That capstone site that I showed you, that was actually a custom site. It wasn't built from a template. It was actually built with a blank slate, so to speak, and we took a Photoshop file, and what that is a picture, and we created the picture the way that that company really site. You can use a theme that exists, or you can use a custom design and do something really, custom for your company. It just depends on how much you want to spend, and what your budget is really. So I'm trying to think. Landing pages, I'm not going to talk too much about those. Really, with landing pages, you want the design to be simple and easy to read. I'm going to quit the screen sharing here so you can see me. There we are. So I'm back. If there's any questions, I think I've covered everything, but Tyler, can you think of anything that people might want to know? I think he's there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sorry, I had myself muted, so apologize for that. But yeah, no, this is great. There are a couple of questions coming in now, and before we go to the questions, what I want to do is actually switch over to our effective website checklist and just run through that because that'll probably spur some more conversation and some more questions. This is a checklist that I started creating many years ago when I was at Infusionsoft. I actually wrote down a few things from your conversation that I want to add to it, like making the phone number text. That's super important so people can click on it when they're on phones. And the mobile responsive piece of it, and just a handful of things there. So let me switch over to that and we will review it real quick. Here it is. Should be able to see that now.
Yep.
So, effective website checklist. First thing, and I'd say this is one of the most important things, is having upfront, in the center, in your headline, your 4 elements of positioning. And so this is something that we've gone through with, all of our Double Your Sales Club members. But those 4 things are who is your product or service for? So it should call them out right from the get-go. Looks like I got a typo there. And what is it? And the problem that you solve and why you're unique. So your positioning statement is usually something that we create kind of as an internal statement, but your external headline and subheadline together should convey that message. If it's not, then you're going to have people that are arriving on your website and they might be the right kind of people, But if they don't notice that they're the right kind of people and that you have the right kind of product or service for them, they're going to leave. So that message has to be there front and center, just hitting them in the face saying, oh yeah, this is for me. I like what I'm seeing. Let me continue on here. The other thing is calls to action, and in that website that you were showing, the Parallax website, you had those buttons there, so perfect. You want to make sure that you've got clear and consistent calls to action, and different calls to action for different types of people. Some people come, they're already ready to buy, or they're ready to sign up, or they're ready for a consultation, or whatever it may be. So you've got that primary call to action. Other people are just kind of checking you out, and so you might need to ease them into it with some kind of free report, or a little test or something like that they can kind of engage at a lower level first. Contact us, you already talked about that. Obviously, that's super important. Make it very prominent for people to contact you. You see a lot of companies moving to the web where they're like, hey, I want to have like this lifestyle business where I just hang out on the beach and people buy stuff online. And so then consumers are getting frustrated now with like, oh man, all these websites, I can't contact anybody. So if you want to stand out and you want to actually engage with your customers and do good business, let them contact you. Let them call you. Someone who calls you, they're ready to buy. So don't miss out on that business. Something that I've actually tested quite a bit is making sure that your menu is set up in a left to right flow that makes sense. What I tested was rearranging the menu items in different orders and seeing how that affects how people navigate through the menu. And as it turns out, people will navigate through your menu in a left to right, top to bottom fashion, no matter what order you put the stuff in. They'll change up a little bit, but the percentages will still break down that way, where they're navigating first on the left and then they work their way across on the right, or if it's a vertical menu, they start on the top and they work their way down. And so you want the most important pages, the most effective pages to convey your message and get people closer to the sale to be furthest to the left or furthest to the top, and then have it progress in a logical manner that gets people through the sales process. Next is telling your story. Again, I'm not a big fan of corporate-y websites. I'd rather them be much more personal. Tell your story. Get personal with people. Get vulnerable. People connect with that, and people buy from people, not from companies. And so I think that can only help. Make sure you're telling a story that is compelling and that also leads them to the sale. Next, of course, is your copy. If you're not great at writing, hire a copywriter, but your copy's got to be compelling and interesting, or else people just aren't going to read it. And then typography, I think, is really important as well. We don't think about this much, but the fonts that you use, you want to make sure that they're easily readable, and that your layout of the content is easily consumable. If you have long, dense paragraphs, man, most people are just going to bail. So you have little chunks of content, easily readable, and then use language that is like 4th grade reading level or less. Because even if you cater to a higher end audience, the easier it is for them to read it, the more quickly they're going to be able to get through the content and get to a point where they're trusting you and willing to move forward. Imagery, you talked about this, Desiree, which is great. Imagery that supports your message. You see people that try to get cute or try to get really fancy with imagery, and oftentimes it distracts from the message. So it's got to support the message but not distract from it. Video you mentioned, so that's great. Breadcrumbs, you kind of mentioned this idea too, that no matter where they're at, they can find their way back and they can find their way to where they want to go. You showed that in your right hand sidebar menu, and breadcrumbs is of course another way to do that, where you allow people to kind of know, where am I on the website and how do I get back to where I was and how do I get to where I want to go. Then of course making it easy to buy, or if you offer like a free consultation, easy to find that information and take action. So those are the main things that I think are really important in effective websites. So let me flip over to the questions here. We'll address a couple questions, and then I've got a template that I use as well for landing pages, effective landing pages. Again, that's another area where I've done a lot of testing, and we'll switch over to that in a minute. So. All right. What's funny is here are the comments. We want to hear about landing pages. PPC landing pages. Main ingredients of effective landing pages. Could you give more information on landing pages? Awesome. But there are a couple questions that were related to the stuff you were talking about that came in while you were talking. So maybe you can answer this one, Desiree. Can you explain, when people come to your site, what do you want them to see? What is the key thing that you're trying to get them to see and notice and drive at?
Okay. So what you want them to see is that you're a legitimate company. I'm serious. That you're a legitimate company and you have a website that answers their questions. Again, it all comes back to knowing who your audience is. If you don't know who your audience is and you're not thinking like them when you put your website together, you've lost this battle. You've got to know what they want immediately and where they want to go. Know what their problem is and solve it if you can from the home page. So with Capstone, that was a perfect example. They had their site somebody who has retiring parents or is thinking of retiring, somebody who has a special needs child, and we addressed those types of problems, and immediately you could click on one of those snapshots and go to a video that answered the questions about that particular need. Okay, so know your audience need and address it immediately from the home page. Tyler, can I do a screen share again because I want to show them something else?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and pull that up.
So I'm going to hit the screen share again. Let me hit that. All right, and I'm going to give you guys a cool site to go to. It's called crazyegg.com. Okay, and what you do is you put in your website, and then what this will do is create a heat map, and it actually shows where people are looking first on your website. And this is loading my heat map and what they're clicking on. So see those really, the orange areas, the orange and green, those are areas that people are clicking on and are really really productive areas. That's what you notice. The phone number is always pretty hot. The menus are hot, so you can actually see down to what they're clicking on that menu, and you can do a 30-day free trial and take a look at your site, look at your heat map, look at what they're clicking on. That should tell you exactly what you should have on that site. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great tool. There's a handful of tools out there that do similar types of things, and Crazy Egg's a great one. So yeah, it's fairly inexpensive as well, just to get some basic data on your website, and that's really how you want to approach this. Is taking a data-based approach to to making decisions. I always laugh when people are making decisions on their website based on their opinion or based on someone else's opinion, because it doesn't mean anything. What we need to do is be collecting data on this stuff. So let's get to some landing page stuff here and go through that. So I've created this template, and by the way, all of the W Sales Club members, I will upload when we put the recording of this video in the membership site. I'll upload the checklist updated with some of the things that Desiree mentioned, as well as this landing page template into that page, so you'll be able to download the PDFs of those right from that page. But again, landing pages are something that I have tested extensively, and what I have found over and over and over is that no matter how I try and change the formula and do something different and make a drastic change, I always come back to this basic formula right here. So you've got your logo in the upper left-hand corner, you've got your strong headline, you've got a sub-headline, then you've got very short, like at the most 2 to 3 sentences, just getting a rough idea of what's going on here. Bullet point benefits and these are benefits of taking the action that you want them to take, which is, in this case, fill out the form. So benefits of taking the action, and then a couple of sentences to wrap up, and then call to action, which is like, go fill out the form. And then over here, you've got basically a summary of that whole thing. So you've got an image of whatever you're offering, quick call to action, summary of the benefits, and then fill out the form, name, email, and your button. And so, again, I've tested this extensively, and I found that this formula is what is most consistent in working. Obviously, the copy is extremely important, but in a landing page where you're offering a free report, you're going to put your free report image here, your logo, put it small. I see people all the time making their logo huge and like, well, isn't that so important? I'm like, well, not necessarily on the landing page. What we want them to do is get the message across quickly. We want them to consume the message and understand why they should be downloading this free report, or requesting a consultation, or whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do. And so the other thing that makes effective landing pages is making sure that your pre-landing page message is congruent, and I'll say identical, with your landing page. So I've done a lot of email advertising, dedicated emails, where you pay for, you go to a publisher and you pay for an email where you control the entire email content. They send it out to their list and you drive traffic to your landing page. And what I found there, again, through lots of testing, is that the more I can make the email identical to the landing page with the imagery, the layout, and the copy, the better the conversion. Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, the reason is because if someone reads the email and they like what they see, when they click that button or the link in the email, they're basically committing to taking the action. Sometimes they're hesitant and they're going to just go check it out, but a lot of times they're saying in their mind, hey, this is what I want. And when they click on it and they get to a page that is slightly different, it takes them a sec to kind of re-answer that question. We're making them make the decision again. They've already made a decision in their mind, yes, I want this. If they get to the web page and they have to make that decision again, then we're creating an extra step for them to go through. And so it's a very common mistake, and I've made the mistake as well, where you send an email, you know that when they click that email, they're going to a landing page, and so your assumption is, well, I've told them part of the story in the email. When they get to the landing page, I'm going to tell them the rest of the story. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. What works is give them the message that you want to give them in the email, and then when they click on that email, give them the exact same message so that immediately and quickly they can say to themselves, yes, that's exactly what I wanted, and then the only thing left for them to do is to fill out the form and move forward. So that is that is something, again, that I've tested extensively. And so whether they're coming from an email or they're coming from a Google ad or a banner or anything, the more congruent the messaging and the imagery can be, the better conversion you're going to get. And you want these landing pages to be simple, to the point, not too much distracting imagery, and then again, ideally, you don't have any other calls to action. You can see that on my page here, I don't have any menu. I don't have anything else. It's just there's only one thing for them to do, which is opt in. The only other thing they can do is leave. Now, if you're coming from Google AdWords, you all will probably know that you are going to have some kind of minor navigation. You can often put it at the bottom, and it's got a link out to kind of your privacy policy and your home page and some things like that, and that's okay. But whenever possible, you want to not have that stuff. Another thing that you would add here, depending on your situation, is potentially a phone number. If the call to action that you're requiring of them may cause them to think, I want to talk to these people first, then have your phone number there. That's a good way to, again, increase some, like Desiree was saying, they want to first know, like, is this even legit? And if you've got a phone number and you've got some of those things that present your company as being more legit, you're going to be better off. The other pieces that I would usually try and include, if you can, that aren't on this template, are social proof pieces. In one of the sites that Desiree showed, there were some logos. And I can't remember what those logos were for in that particular example, but if you've seen, like, as seen on, and kind of have the different logos, or things like that, or if you've won awards, list out the logos of those awards. Again, it gives you some legitimacy and some social proof, and then of course testimonials, if you can provide some testimonials on that page as well. I would again put them like on the right hand side in the sidebar down below or below the content. And have those testimonials just be there as supporting evidence that it's a good idea to fill out this form. So those are some pointers on landing pages. Let me jump back here to the questions here. Let's see here. Bruno's offering some other cool tools, I guess. Mouseflow.com sounds like that's probably another heat mapping type thing. Low.com, I'm not familiar with that one, but that might do something similar. Okay, Carmen's asking, what are the main ingredients of effective landing pages? Yeah, I think we've just covered that on our landing page template there. Anything else you can think of? Desiree, obviously you work with a lot of clients. You had 1,000%, probably 10,000% more website building experience than I have. So what have you seen with your clients and their landing pages, and how you're making those more effective?
Well, I would say keep it simple. It's that KISS principle. Keep it simple and don't put too much information. I think the worst you can do is put paragraph after paragraph of text on your homepage. You really don't want to do that. Stay away from it. Keep it into a bullet point format. People want to do a couple things. They want to save time, or they want to save money. Okay, and or they want a question. They want to learn something from you. So if you can address those points on your site of how they're going to do those things and do it again at eye level, your most important message should be right there at eye level on the laptop or the phone, and in bold type and big type. That's really going to capture their attention, and then they're going to delve further into your website. So if you can solve their problem on the home page and tell them how you're going to be able to solve it, have some proof that you can solve it with testimonials. That's great, Tyler. I love that. That's going to be to your benefit and will intrigue people to go further. Now, a lot of people ask me, how many pages should a site have, right? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 100? It's as many as you need for people to find and get the information that they're wanting. So if you have a lot of services that you offer, yeah, you should have a page for each one of your services that kind of acts like a landing page for that particular service and allows people to get information about that particular service. It's also good for search engine optimization that you have pages that talk about only that particular service or aspect of your business, because the search engines will look at, and I don't mean to get into this, but it's kind of a whole nother field, but something to think about is you want to talk about one topic on one page, because if you start talking about 5 things at once, the search engines are going to get a little confused and they're not going to know where to put those pages in the index, in the listing. It's like a library full of books. It's got to be organized. Your site has to be organized. So if you have a lot of services, make sure each one gets its own page and only talks about that particular service. Make sure it's easy to find those pages from every page of your site, especially the home page.
So I've got some questions about that, Desiree. My feeling has been over the last few years that SEO is becoming less and less important, or at least maybe I should say it's getting harder and harder to get great results out of SEO efforts, and so I tend to say I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm just going to mess with things that I know I can control, which is advertising and partners and other ways to drive traffic. So and I assume these are again assumptions. That's why I'm asking you. I assume it's because more and more and more businesses are going online, so it's just flooded. It's harder. It's harder to compete with all that, as well as Google's getting smarter and smarter and smarter with the algorithms, so it's harder to game the system. I was involved in early days when it was so easy. We'd just keywords stack those things, and boom, you're #1 on the first page, and it was awesome. But now it's really hard to game the system, and in fact, they're getting smarter about smacking you down if they notice that you're gaming the system. And so I tend to just say, look, it sounds like a lot of effort for very little benefit, so I'm going to go focus on the things that I know I can drive results with faster. But you may have a very different experience. What are you seeing with SEO these days?
I've been fortunate enough that my site was built back in 1998. My site has been on the first page of Google for literally 17 years for the keywords Atlanta web design. So I've been grandfathered in. My site's going to stay on the front as long as I keep talking about web design on my site and don't go off and start talking about something else. So I still feel, okay, I'm going to give you a great example. This is a personal example. It just happened to me. Literally, I had a house that was for rent. I live in Woodstock, Georgia. What I did was I listed the house on Craigslist and got no calls after 90 days. I went to Google, I put in Woodstock homes for rent, and I looked at all the sites that came up. Zillow was one of them, and Trulia. Those are very big sites, and they're going to get top ranking on Google because they have thousands of pages. Okay, they're very big directories. So what I did was I listed our rental on the sites, the directories that were coming up on the first page. Within 40 minutes, literally 40 minutes, we got the call from the couple that rented the house because we piggybacked off those directory sites. So if you're in an industry that's got some directories, you may want to look at listing your site on those directories. It's still viable. People are still using the Google to search for goods and services. So, do some research. Put what you do into the search engines and see, what comes up. And maybe there's some directories that you can piggyback off of. But as far as a brand new site, you can't, if you hire the right people who understand how Google works, you can still get a site done the right way with good search engine optimization, and it will pull if it's done correctly. And also you want to look at local. I think people overlook the local results. People are looking for the accountant that's down the street. Well, Google actually knows where you're at based on your IP address of your internet service provider, and we'll bring up local listings. Same thing with your smartphone. Local listings, smartphone knows where you're at, and it will bring up listings based on your location. So don't overlook the micro listings. Woodstock, Georgia web design, that would be perfect for my company. Or, Pasadena, attorney or something like that. So there you go.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, I had no idea that directories were still playing a part in all this. Of course, that was a key part of SEO, and again in the early days. I haven't been involved too much in SEO in the last few years, and when I was at Infusionsoft, we hired a couple of SEO firms that I felt like were just wasting our money, so I canceled those contracts, and we just continued advertising because I felt like I can spend money and I can measure exactly what that money's doing and how it's coming back to us and that kind of stuff. And every time I spent money with SEO companies, I felt like, the results are, okay.
Mixed. Well, and the same thing for the pay-per-click. If you want to do more of a local pay-per-click, also don't overlook Facebook ads. My goodness, they're so low cost. They're probably one of the cheapest online ads that you can do is through Facebook ads, and you can micro target down to the income, or you can really target who you want to advertise to on Facebook down to the position of the person that you're trying to target. Same thing on LinkedIn. So don't overlook those social channels too for advertising and for optimization.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's where we spend a lot of our focus is Facebook ads. Google still, depending on the industry, some are just getting so competitive it's ridiculous, and you're fighting with massive companies that have huge budgets, so it's a little difficult. But Facebook's extremely cost effective, and I'm still a big believer in dedicated emails. Continue to find good results with those. But yeah, we're getting off onto all kinds of advertising topics, but it's great. I love it. I love all these topics. But Desiree, thank you so much for hopping on with us and walking us through some of your sites and your experience. Really appreciate it. I don't see any other questions coming in that we haven't already handled. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get this video posted in our membership site. I'll also send out an email to our members letting them know about the recording, and I want to put in a little link for Bella Web Design, and encourage any of you, if you are needing updates to your website, or if you're needing a new website, go ahead and hop over to bellawebdesign.com. You don't stay in business for that many years in the internet industry without doing something right. So these guys know what they're doing. Desiree is definitely an expert, and go check out what they have to offer. So again, Desiree, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler. Great to hear your voice and see you tonight, and look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you, and good night, everybody. We'll see you on our next call. Goodbye.